Caleb Williams. I'm just waiting at any moment for him to do something. It just makes me want to throw something across the room.
I don't know which one was a better throw. Devontae Adams' catch was insane. Unbelievable. I mean, you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, go outside and try to make one of those two throws. Good luck. I can't do it either. All right, welcome to Fitz and Whit. I'm Fitz. That's Whit, and this is a Wave original. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Give us 5 stars, Whit. Come
Please.
on. Have you done it yet, Whit? I gave us 5 stars.
I forgot.
I like listening to you. Follow the show on social media at Fitz and Whit. That's Fitz A&D Whit. New episodes every week. And guess what? Another week with a bonus episode. We got a lot to cover. We got Brian Cushing coming. So we had to do 2 episodes this week. Whit, tell the good people what they'll hear from us today.
Well, first off, Fitz, this episode is going to be presented by Rotel and Velveeta. Coming up, we're going to recap a WILD Divisional round, and there's a ton to talk about it, so let's get right into it, Fitz.
Seattle, man. I mean, from the opening kickoff, Rashid Shaheed, it was just domination, and Whit, I'm worried. I'm worried about our Rams, man. I mean, I know we sat there and watched Stafford throw for 450 or whatever it was on Thursday night. But it's so crazy to say watching this team play defense like they do. But, man, this Seattle team, they're loaded, aren't they?
They are. And I think one of the guys you touched on that you thought would become a huge factor has, and that's Rashid Shaheed. I mean, you look at him. Like, I just think it's so cool that, like, it's one of those things we talk about in free agency and then in the trade deadline in the middle of the season. Like, sometimes these pickups that teams get that you just think are, it's a guy, and you kind of dismiss it like, oh, it'll help them in this part of the game. But to think what he's been to them on special teams now, the Rams game, this playoff game, and then some of the electric plays, like just being able to get the ball in his hand, I think it's added a whole new element that teams have to defend. And we have to remember, why is it so significant? Because you're so special on defense. That any big play that's created offensively, it's not about whether the offense has to be perfect. It's like if they can just create some big plays and keep themselves, ahead of the chains in the sense of the score and everything else, it just makes it such a challenge against a defense that's so elite. For him to be making these special teams plays, and then always that guy that's the threat for the huge play on offense, I think it's been a huge pickup for them. It's been something that's really take their game to the next level. But I would say the biggest part to me, Fitz, that I think has changed everything is the way this team's running the football. Like we said in the middle of the year, as good as they weren't really running the ball very well. Like, Sam was doing a great job pushing the ball down the field, all of that relationship, really you could see offensively with Kubiak and everything else, his development, but the run game just wasn't what you thought of when you think of a Kubiak, offense and something that kind of comes from that Shanahan tree. But to see it now and the way they've got it going and rolling, I think that's the element to me going to this playoff game that I go, uh-oh. Because if they can run the football well, I don't know how you beat the Seattle Seahawks as good as they're playing on defense.
But it was gutted to see Zach Charbonnet tear his ACL, too. Oh. I mean, you hate that.
That's a big loss.
Consummate professional. It's a big
He's so consistent
loss for them.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is Kenneth Walker is a home run hitter, but he doesn't have the consistency that Charbonnet does. So we'll see how that's affected going forward. But I want to go back to talking about Rashid Shaheed. It just reminded me when the Bills were getting ready to play Jacksonville in the playoffs, McDermott made a comment about, this pickup, Jacoby Myers, that they were able to grab at the trade deadline and what it's done to the offense of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You kind of start to think, like, was that, a veiled shot of like, look, a couple of these teams, they've really changed their receiver rooms with what they've done at the trade deadline, and the Bills just weren't able to do that. And where the Bills would have been without Brandon Cooks, by the way. I mean, he came in and played really well, but they weren't able to make one of those big moves to get those guys, and it certainly has paid dividends for both those teams, but especially for Seattle and the big playability of Rashid Shaheed. I still want to see him get more involved in the vertical passing game. Like, it's got to happen. Maybe it's going to happen.
You're waiting.
I'm waiting.
Not this week, Fitz. Not this week. Next year. Next year he can do it.
Next year? No, Super Bowl, Whit.
No, I don't.
No, you don't want that to happen.
I don't want that to happen this week.
The cool thing about all 4 of these games that we were able to watch this weekend is they were outside. You could say whatever you want about, we want a dome, we want this football and weather this time of year. is really fun to watch.
It is.
I think it just adds to the atmosphere and the environment. And the snow falling during the Houston New England game was super cool. That, I think the one thing as fans that, and even me, like you forget a little bit as you're watching is like these elements really matter. So we're talking about that snow falling. What kind of snow is it? At first it was a wet snow. Not easy to throw a wet ball. It's been sitting out there. As the snow becomes more dry, it gets a little easier to throw. But I mean, Houston's defense did everything they could. I mean, there were 4 or 5 turnovers, and the only points they gave up on the turnovers was the one where New England actually returned it for a touchdown. Whenever New England's offense got the ball, Houston shut them out. And you talked about great defenses and rising to the moment for Houston in those huge moments to shut them down. And then at some point, it was just going to break, right? But Booty makes an unbelievable one-handed catch on the Drake May throw. And then it's just like, I mean, Drake May fumbles 4 times in that game. And, 2 of them are recovered, but all 4 of those were enormous moments in the game. And that thing, if the linemen don't jump on those fumbles, that thing could have been changed in a hurry.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you want to see in those games you're going to grow. Like we just said about a young head coach, Drake May, same situation in these playoff games. Like, hey, we're going to have to secure the football. And sometimes it's going to be realizing to me, like people are going to say, what does he have to do with lineman getting beat or a guy getting a sack? Well, it's going to be sometimes realizing, hey, my guys are a little outmatched. Like I'm going to have to get the football out of my hand or I'm going to have to climb the pocket and get out of here. You know what I mean? And so some of that you're going to have to feel that, hey, my guy's going to be a little outmatched in this game. That's what this front does. This is that kind of game. I can't hold the ball for another second. I can't sit there and go, oh, man, I'm going to extend this one more. If I am, I'm moving. You know what I mean? And I'm getting out of the pocket. I'm climbing it and the ball's coming out, but I'm not kind of sitting there waiting for things to develop. It's just not that kind of game. That happens in the NFL. That's just a fact. You see some of the great all-time quarterbacks handle it. And I think this is one of the things I don't sit there and go, oh, Drake May's playing terrible. I think, hey, man, this is something he'll learn as he goes. This will be another challenge this week because this is another group, the Denver Broncos, that are really special at rushing the quarterback, and they are fast on the edges. And so when you're playing in Denver, he's going to get some edges, right? And so you're going to have to get used to it, and you'll have to learn and play within the timing and rhythm that, you know what, not just a play's timing and rhythm, but also, hey, who my guys are facing and really what that game's going to dictate that I have to do with the football.
Yeah, and I just want to do a quick recap on New England went from being so bad last year to so good this year. We talk about the schedule, yes, but it's like, what did they do? So they quickly moved on. They made a decision that wasn't working, which was Mayo at head coach. They also, when they made the decision to let him go, they had a succession plan, right? They were going to hire Mike Vrabel because they thought he was a better guy for the job. Vrabel wanted more support for his quarterback, and we've talked about this. He brings in Josh McDaniels, who's been a godsend for Drake May. They make the additions on the O-line. They get him a number 1 receiver, and it was the way they spent all this money in free agency. But how did they spend the money in free agency? They went after difference makers, Stephon Diggs and Milton Williams. But then there were a bunch of dudes, the glue/culture guys that they went out and got. Harold Landry was a guy that had played in Tennessee for Braves before. He knew what he was. Robert Spillane, he's been healthy. He's played well. Mac Hollins was on the Bills. Yep. He's a glue guy.
He knew what he was.
He does all those little things.
Barefoot.
And I think he might be back this week. Barefoot. I think he might be back this week off of IR. But Morgan Moses, to be able to bring in a veteran tackle, to be able to talk to the young guy that they brought in, your guy Will Campbell, Garrett Bradbury at center, even a guy like Carlton Davis that they just know plays ball the right way, not afraid to stick his nose in there, and he comes up with the 2 big turnovers in the game. And then they drafted well. They drafted immediate contributors that were going to help support Drake May. Will Campbell certainly has struggled the last few weeks, but he's going to be their guy at left tackle for a long time. Travion Henderson has been a difference maker. Kyle Williams brings an element of speed that is nice to see. And then their kicker, whatever his name is, Borgalis or whatever, I mean, he's played really well this year too. So it's like all these guys that support Drake May in this offense, they've just done it the right way. They had a blueprint. They laid it out. They're able to stay healthy for the most part this season. And it's been really impressive to see that Mike Vrabel in every move that he has made has led to this moment. And he's batting 1,000 right now with his decisions as a head coach.
He is, and some of them too. It's like I just said, timing comes into a lot of these things. Think of like Milton Williams. I mean, a guy who had a great year and then he got injured. But what does he do? He's injured for a while, but when does he come back? Just in time for the playoffs. He's a D lineman who's fresh, ready to go, healthy. He got a good break, because sometimes when you have an injury that you can come back from and be fully healthy, but you get that downtime to kind of get your body right and back, and you got fresh legs, you can see his impact in these playoffs and his ability to impact games and why he was brought there. I mean, you think of his run last year with the Eagles and the damage he caused up front in that game against the Chiefs, and every week really in the playoff run. Like, he's a special player in that sense, and that's what he's built to do, and they brought him in to do it. And I think the cool thing too, Fitz, is like this Patriots defense, that was a question in these playoffs. Like, how good are they really? And they've probably been the most dominant defense in the playoffs right now outside of Seattle. Like, they literally have created turnovers, pressure, hitting the quarterback. I mean, CJ Stroud, literally, he didn't have a chance to do anything. Even some of the play actions where you think, oh man, at least we can get a chance. They were on him immediately in a lot of these rollout play action plays. Like, their ability really to elevate in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's a direct Mike Vrabel, his impact, the teaching, the coaching, the planning, and the belief they have and who they are. Like, this Patriot defense keeps playing like this. I mean, I think that's what really makes it challenging to beat them, is now all of a sudden they've got a defense that's playing up to a really high standard. You got an awesome OC who's going to call a game that's going to put you in a position to win. And then Drake, it's honestly, he's just learning as he goes. He's been unbelievably special this year. You see the moments, even the throw to Booty. Like, obviously he makes a great catch. Ooh. But as a young guy, to go make that freaking throw in that moment, you go, damn, this dude, Drake May's going to be the real deal for a long time.
Yeah. And, you talked about Houston and CJ Stroud. There's a lot of questions now, right? After the two playoff games. Think about that situation. They're going to pick up I think maybe they already have exercise his fifth year option, but if you're CJ Stroud's agent, you're going in there and saying, look, all the other big time quarterbacks, they got paid after their third year, and we want $60 million a year. And so I just think that the people in that building that are around him every day, CJ Stroud, they're the ones that are going to have to make a decision on this guy. Is this guy we want leading our building? Because once you pay a dude $60 million a year, it's not just about his play on Sundays. It's about his daily habits. It's about his leadership ability, and it's about everything in between. He's going to set the tone for the entire building. And so they've got some big decisions to make. And this situation is going to be interesting this offseason, because who knows what CJ Stroud does. I mean, if they don't give him the contract, is he going to sit and wait and say, guys, I'm not showing up until you pay me? Because that's probably the advice that his agent is going to give him. And so you look at their year overall, Davis Mills steps in, does a great job, placeholder for CJ when he was out with a concussion for those weeks. Did it feel like it was a huge drop-off when Davis Mills was in? Not really. And so I just think that this is one to keep an eye on, because I think it could get ugly this offseason. But if you have hesitations about CJ Stroud being the face of your franchise, I think, this is me not knowing anything, I think there's a chance maybe you trade him this offseason. And I'm not one to sit here and have the hot takes and do all that. But if you know what you have in CJ Stroud and you don't know that that's what you want to give $60 million a year to, then I promise you there's going to be some other teams that need quarterbacks. They're going to go get him in a hurry. There's some teams with great infrastructures that are waiting on a quarterback. The Vikings, if Stafford retires, the Rams maybe. Stefanski just went to Atlanta. Yeah, they've got Michael Penix, but he's been hurt a bunch. He wouldn't mind having CJ Stroud in Atlanta. Or if you're the Texans, you're thinking about, gosh, there are a bunch of other quarterback needy teams. The Jets, they may draft one. The Raiders, the Cardinals. Like, maybe you trade CJ Stroud if you don't think he's the guy that deserves $60 million a year. I just think it's interesting. I think they know what they have in CJ Stroud. Is it $60 million a year? I don't know if they're going to commit to that. And if they don't, maybe they should think about trading him.
Well, I think it is an interesting conversation, because when you start thinking about this defense and how really young and talented and really, like, you look at this team, like, let's be real, they're in this situation because of how that group's played all season long. And if you could tell me, I would normally sit here and say, no way. And then when you tell me, man, how the guys kind of played, and then you look at it and go, how do we keep this young defense together? We're going to need money. And then also, how do we keep building on this defense and also putting together the offense we want? We need more weapons. That's a lot of draft picks and some capital space that you can go spend on keeping all the guys together. And so I think when you start to think about, man, Danielle Hunter's getting up there in age. Yes, he's still playing awesome. Are you going to be able to afford him and keep him in the building? And whatever that number is as the years go on, do you need to start drafting his replacement in the sense of somebody he could tutor and mentor because he's a special dude as well? Because when you start to enter this world where you just have Will Anderson, is he special? Yes. But if you only have one and Danielle Hunter's not there anymore in a couple of years, that's a totally different game from a defensive standpoint, how an offense plans for a guy. So I think you got to start to say, if we're going to be a defensive head coach, and this is a rare defense we have, how do we keep that together? Maybe my point number one, that's like, hey, if we're going to put a priority together, I want to make sure this defense is really special. I want to make sure we have a really good offensive line and some weapons on offense, because to me, that's one of the places they've got to improve. The O-line's got to improve. You sent one of the best players in the NFL, Laramie Tunzel, to Washington, in the offseason. You got to start to have that kind of talent play in front of whoever the quarterback is, because I'm not paying CJ Stroud $60 million and continuing to have an offensive line that doesn't quite play to the standard that I'm going to need to protect a $60 million a year investment in the first place. So you got to figure that situation out. So I think it's complex. It's a complex situation. You just say you're going to write a big check to a quarterback.
Dude, it's complex. And I'm telling you, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me, because CJ Stroud is a very good football player. And you don't think that Kevin O'Connell watches him play and thinks, gosh, if I could get my hands on him, the things that I could do with him to help him, to guide him. But then you look at Seattle and it's like, okay, well, they're not paying a guy $60 million a year. They're paying a guy $30 million a year. Is there somebody like that? Is it Mac Jones? Is it Davis Mills, who's already in your building and under contract for another year, that potentially could be that guy that's going to be good enough? Because we saw it with their defense. Their defense is phenomenal, outstanding, tops in the league. You need a quarterback that's good enough, right? And so if you're not going to be willing to allocate $60 million because you want some of the resources to go elsewhere, how do we find that guy, that's Sam Darnold, the guy we can give 30 a year to keep us afloat, to put us in good situations, to play smart football? The more I think about it, the more likely I think it is. And I know that might sound crazy, but I don't know.
Well, Fitz, look at where D'Amico came from in San Francisco. Jimmy G was their answer for a while until they made all crazy trade, all the picks, everything for Trey Lance. That didn't even work out. They got lucky that Brock Purdy was the last guy available in the draft, and they got a hit on a huge player, right? But the reality is how did they build that team? If you remember the San Francisco 49ers, it was Jimmy had gotten hurt a few years there, who they had at quarterback. They kept having injuries. They were moving up to the front of the draft constantly because they were struggling with injuries and drafting tons of talent, even though they weren't necessarily trading for the picks. They were getting all these top level talent guys on defense, and that's how they became special, right? And so it's like that's how they became rare before they got Brock Purdy, while they were not spending quite as much money on a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like D'Amico's seen some of that. So I think it is an interesting conversation that I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's one you got to sit in a room and have the conversation and go, how do we keep the entirety of our team at an elite level moving forward when we have a really good player, but do we or do we not want to pay him that kind of money moving forward? We're gearing up for the AFC and NFC championship games, and you know what that means. You need championship level snacks, and no game day is complete unless there's a big bowl of queso dip. Nothing brings my entire family together like good football and great snacks. All you need are 2 ingredients to make a best-in-class, warm, creamy, delicious queso. Velveeta brings the creamy cheesiness, and Rotel is a blend of diced tomato and green chili that will bring the bold to your food. It's a crowd-pleasing recipe that everyone craves. To find your easy, delicious queso recipe, visit rotel.com. That's RO-TEL.com.
Moving on to your game, the Rams-Bears game. I was cracking up watching that game, thinking about you, just knowing how nervous you were during the Carolina game, just thinking about you pacing the room. And I mean, gosh. Those Bears,
and the dynamic. Caleb Williams, I'm just waiting at any moment for him to do something. It just makes me want to throw something across the room.
Both of these guys, those were the 2 of the best throws all year. Like, both of them were 10 out of 10 difficulty. The Caleb Williams one that sent the game to overtime, 14-yard touchdown pass that ended up going like 50 yards in the air. I don't know how he does this. His back foot is on the 40-yard line. He's backing up to have the arm strength to do that. The catch with Cole Kmet in the end zone was insane. And then our guy, Matthew Stafford, that throw in overtime to the sideline to the left. Devontae Adams' catch was insane. Unbelievable. But just your routine 12-yard completion, Matthew. Deshaun Wright, perfect in coverage. He's right there. He's got to be thinking, what else do I have to do? You got Austin Booker coming around the edge, like barreling down on Matthew. He kind of does one of these deals where he lets it go across his body. How old is this guy? Like, the arm strength of this guy and the pinpoint accuracy to put it where he needed to put it in that moment during the game. I don't know which one was a better throw. Obviously, if these were taking situation out of it, the Caleb Williams one, in terms of physical impressiveness, talent, my God. I mean, just so much talent. But both of these guys, I mean, you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, go outside and try to make one of those two throws. Good luck. I can't do it either.
Yeah, the term threading the needle really comes into place on that Stafford throw. I mean, that was absolutely insane. Even hearing him describe the throw that he thought he needed to make in that sense was like, he was talking about how the length that Wright has and where the ball really had to go. And then he was like, I couldn't believe that Devontae caught it, because where I knew I had to throw it, I didn't think it was going to actually be able to be caught. But I knew that was the only place I could put it to have any chance, and Devontae caught it. I mean, he seemed as blown away as anybody. But you look at this game, and it's like one of those things where it's the wild part of the NFL, man. The Rams defense, in the last half of the season, probably, not probably the bright spot as they were probably up until maybe the first Seattle game, how dominant they were. They had some moments, whether it be against the Panthers and others, where you're like, man, gosh, this defense hasn't played to the standard that they really did the first part of the season. And then this game, they bailed him out a number of times, played unbelievable. Chris Shula had these guys going. I think the Quentin Lake play down the goal line, absolutely insane to keep DeAndre Swift out of the end zone. Just really unbelievable effort. What you want to see if you're a Ram in the sense of like complete football, to think of how their season's gone, and defense and special teams really bailed them out and gave them an opportunity to win this game. Now, granted, Stafford and the group had to be unbelievable in the last drive to go get points, but to get to that point, really defense and special teams with some big moments to win this game for them, and something that really special teams especially, really the reason they're on the road playing in Chicago is how they've played on special teams this year. So that's just the truth of the situation. But, again, for Matthew Stafford to answer it in the game's biggest moment, we need you, 9. And he puts it together the drive, even though he didn't have it the first drive in overtime, gets the ball back, gets that opportunity. Cam Curl comes up with probably the best catch of the whole entire day, outside of Devontae's maybe. Absolutely crazy. Gives them the opportunity, and they go find a way to win. And now what do you win? An opportunity to win the NFC Championship, but you got to go to Seattle and play that defense and a team that's absolutely on fire. I mean, absolutely on fire. You think of their road right now, Fitz, like the Rams have basically been in an airplane and traveling across the country over the last 7 weeks. That's all they've done. Going to Carolina, going to Atlanta, going to Seattle for that game we had, and then having to now to start the playoffs, going back to Carolina, now going to Chicago and playing the cold. And Seattle has basically gone to San Francisco over the last 5 weeks, and that's it. So pretty wild when you think of this game, what the Rams have been through, what they've overcome. It's going to be a big challenge with that in mind to go up to Seattle and play a team that's basically been at home over the last month and playing unbelievable football. But if anybody can do it, I'm going to put my money on Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and this Ram squad.
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of people that are surprised that Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay find themselves in this situation, playing for the conference championship. But I also think for them now, with everything you just said and what Seattle has been doing, I think this would be the upset of the playoffs. If they could go into Seattle and beat this red hot Seahawks team, I think it would be the upset of the playoffs.
This next segment is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Okay, Beardos, another week of NFL action means another week to win big.
We're moving on to championship games, Whit. We're each going to pick our top 3 locks for players in this week's games on DraftKings. I will start, and I'm going to pick the same guy for my first 2 locks because I think we're not going to give this guy enough credit going into the game. Jarrett Stidham will be more on passing yards, and Jarrett Stidham will be more on touchdowns. It's interesting because obviously Bo Nix is a huge loss, but Stidham has been around, right? He's been in that system for quite a while. He hasn't played a ton, but they've got a great offensive line. Sean Payton, I think, with Josh McDaniels, those are the 2 best screen callers in the NFL. And so he's going to be able to dial some stuff up where Stidham's going to get going early.
Ooh, I love this. Fitz, I'm going to go more as well, but I think you know where my heart is this weekend. I'm going to go Matthew Stafford, more on touchdowns passing, and I'm going to go Kyren Williams, more on touchdowns rushing, baby. Whose house? Rams house. Let's go.
Oh, that's a huge shocker to me. Wow.
Well, I know you're shocked.
Okay. The last one that I'll go more on, I'm not a moron. I'm just going to go more on Travion Henderson touchdowns. I'm going more. He's been special for them this year, and I think it's going to be one of those games they're going to have to lean on Travion a little bit.
I like that. You know, I'm going to mix it up with my last one. I'm going to go Devontae Adams for more touchdowns receiving, just in case you want to know who I'm rooting for this weekend.
Such a homer. You're such a homer. Whit, you are such a homer with those bets, but I do have to agree with you on Devontae Adams. I just feel like he's due. And Kyren Williams has been so good for them this year. So, look, I'm saying you're a homer, but I actually agree with you that those dudes are going to get in the end zone. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DKWAVE. That's DKWAVE. That's code DKWAVE to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org.
On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. I want to go back for a second to Chicago. And if you're a Bears fan right now, you got to be feeling good. I know they lost, but it was an exciting season. You have your coach, you have your quarterback, you're feeling good about it. I think next year for the Bears, what I would love to see Ben Johnson, just the continued development of Caleb Williams. He's a demanding coach. It's what Caleb needs, and Caleb needs to continue to be receptive to the coaching. He needs to continue to see and play better from the pocket. I think that's just one thing I'm excited about to see next year with him. And then here's another thing, which you may think I'm wrong on this one, but I know that Caleb loves the name Iceman. I know he had all these drives at the end of games to bring them back and win. I would just encourage Caleb, you're allowed to show your emotions. Like, I feel like he's holding it in, like he wants to be the Iceman. He wants to be cool. After you win a game, like, Caleb, you realize from your rookie year how hard it is to win in this league.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that, like, he's relishing those moments with his teammates. You got to enjoy it, man, because it is really hard to win in this league. Jaden Daniels figured that out after his first year, right? Fairy tale first year. And then you go through some of these ups and downs of the NFL. So if there was one thing I would encourage Caleb Williams to do is enjoy it. Smile more. It's okay. When you win, it's okay to celebrate because you deserve it, man. But wow. What a year for the Chicago Bears. What a time to be alive for Chicago Bears fans, baby.
And we need it in the NFL. I mean, you know, you and I have had this conversation. Like, the Chicago Bears being an elite football team just felt like something the NFL needed back. And so, I mean, the energy, we were up there, obviously, for our game our playoff game. And it's just that city is such a sports town. They're in love with this team, a lot of pride. I mean, it feels so good to see them back. And now even to see that setting and that environment, like I was fired up. Heck, I didn't like the Rams being in that situation overtime in that game, but it took me back to our game and just how insane that was, that finish, everything that went on. Man, what a stadium, what a setting. And back to your point earlier about outdoor football, like, God, is there anything better than in Chicago? It's freezing cold, there's snow, and the energy of those Bears fans is really special. And I agree with you on that. I think what's really cool too, Fitz, that should make you as a Chicago Bears fan be fired up. It's not like they got to where they are with all of this, like having to leverage picks or throw away investments, like to try to get this football team as good as it is. Like they've still got plenty of opportunity to improve this team through the draft, through free agency, everything else, really moves they can make. There's still a lot there. They didn't out leverage themselves to have this one good year. This has truly been through a lot of things over a time coming together in the right way. Some good free agency decisions. We talked about Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson going and getting both those guards by trades, one from the Rams and Jonah Jackson, who he didn't work out in LA, but he had an unbelievable year in Chicago. And then Joe Thuney, like, man, much could be said about, as I said in our pregame there, one of the MVPs. Think about him moving to left tackle in this game and having an unbelievable game. What a free agency, trade and free agency to get acquisition to get for the Chicago Bears. Like, man, you got to feel good about where you're at in that standpoint. And they got to just continue to remind themselves, Caleb's played special. They had some special skill guys, but the way this offensive line played is a part of a reason why they had success. And like, you got to continue to invest there and make sure that this group in front of Caleb is special. And man, Bears' future is bright. And in Chicago, you got to feel good. I mean, there's another change in Green Bay with Hafley getting a job. They're going to have to replace their coordinator. Detroit now is making a move for a new OC. Like, who knows how that's going to work out? Like in Minnesota, they're still trying to figure out, is JJ the answer or not? I think that if you're a Chicago Bear, you got to feel like, man, here's our window. Let's go make some more moves on top of this, build this team, and the future is bright.
Yeah, and New York Giants and New York Jets, you're up, because I'm sure Roger Goodell would appreciate Buffalo is in New York, but Roger Goodell would appreciate the Giants or the Jets being good too. I think that would be good for the league. So can we do something? I mean, it's been a tough last 5 years for both those franchises. We will see. We want to thank Roe for sponsoring this segment. Whit, the AFC and the NFC championship games are right in front of us, and some of these teams haven't been playing the way that they've wanted to. They need a little spark, Whit. So do you have a team or a player in mind for our Rose Spark segment here?
You know what? I do, actually. My Rose Sparks team that I have in mind, and listen, I'm a homer, Fitz. What do you expect, okay? I'm going to go with the Rams again. I did this last time. I'm doing it again, but it's a different place. I said Quentin Lake last time we were going to need him to make some plays in Devontae Adams. They did just that in Chicago to help this team move on. But you know my Rose Sparks moments for now? Jared freaking Verse. Listen, my guy, you are going to be a really special football player in this league, but if there's any week we need you, it's against the Seattle Seahawks. We need Jared Verse to have a massive impact in this game, because the one thing that I have felt that we've lacked a little bit in this run, the back half of the season, is the ability to get the quarterback on the ground on defense. We have played great in a lot of areas, but this is the area that I'd want to see. If I'm a Los Angeles Ram, we need a spark that this defensive line gets after Sam Darnold, because the way we had the interceptions the first time we played Seattle, the way that game stayed close and you had a chance to win it, is the pressure you're able to create and the bad decisions that led because of it. And so I'm going to say Jared Verse is going to be my Rams Rose Spark guy that we need, baby. This is the spark the Rams need. Verse, let's go get it. Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Fisk, let's get it going. Let's be the difference.
Okay. My spark is not going to be Jared. It's going to be Jarrett Stidham.
Ooh.
I think it's an obvious one, but I would just encourage Jarrett Stidham. Look, he's a veteran. He hasn't played a ton of games, but he's been around, right? And he's seen the way the Broncos have played all year. Great defense. They've got a great offensive line. And I'm sure he watched that playoff game with New England and Houston. We can't lose the game for our team. That's going to be the first thing. And that's a tough mindset going into a game. But Sean Payton's going to scheme some stuff up for him. They're going to have the screen game going. They're going to do the handoffs. They're going to get the run game going a little bit. Lean on your playmakers on the outside. Mims, if he's in there, the speed sweeps is going to be a big deal. One-on-one to Courtland Sutton, 3rd and 4th down. He's done it all season long. Jarrett Stidham, you've been watching all season long. Bo Nix has done a good job. It's your time to step up, baby. The Broncos need a spark, and let it be you.
I love it, Fitz. But listen, you and I both know this. When the game is on the line in the bedroom, you need something that delivers under pressure, Fitz. Rose Sparks kicks in fast. So there's less waiting around for kickoff, and it stays in your system for up to 36 hours. So you're always ready for a little overtime.
Whit, we're down to the final 4 teams squaring off for the AFC and NFC championships. That means guys have to get their minds right and be ready for anything.
Just like you always want to be ready for sex whenever your partner's in the mood.
Whit, those are 2 very different mindsets.
You'd think that, but Rose Sparks can make any round of sex feel just like winning a championship.
I see what you did there, Whit. Okay.
That's right, Fitz. Rose Sparks are a 2-in-1 prescription treatment for guys who want harder and more controlled erections.
As we have learned, they hit the bloodstream fast, Whit, because they dissolve under the tongue, guys. And getting hard fast means there's less waiting to perform.
Plus, its dual action formula stays active in your system for up to 36 hours, so you can be ready for the second half and even a little overtime.
If prescribed, new sexual health patients get $15 off their first order of Sparks on a recurring plan.
Connect with the provider at ro.co/Fitz and Whit to find out if prescription Rose Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/Fitz and Whit for $15 off your first order.
Sparks is a compounded drug product. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to ro.co/safety info. I'm still in a deep state of depression,
but
much like all the Bills fans. We got to talk about it a little bit. Amazing game. One of these crazy overtime games, back and forth. The Bills had their shot in overtime. We obviously had the interception heard around the world. I'll just say this. I think it was an interception. I know I'm very biased, and I know people want me to say that it was a catch by Brandon Cooks. I thought it was an interception. I thought it was the right call, but it's just crazy to me in all these games. Things keep coming up that are so controversial, things that we've never seen before, things that just cause so much bickering and arguments on Twitter and everything else. But the Bills, they didn't play well enough to win the game, unfortunately, and they did not.
I agree with you, Fitz. This one's tough, man. Obviously, at moments in this game, obviously Josh was awesome. And then there's times where he's reckless. And then, you have the turnovers, you have those things. And you're like, man, but the reality is like we talked about the week before, like that's how I want quarterbacks to live in these playoffs is like, I'm either winning it for us, but I'm definitely not going to be the reason I was hesitant and I was cautious and we didn't win because I could have took more shots. I could have been more aggressive. I don't think you can live with yourself in that way. But when you say, hey, I'm going to go out and try and win us the game, I think it's what Josh Allen does all year long. He's always that way. And it's crazy to look at this game because you're like, man, Buffalo really dominated, on offense outside of the turnovers, Fitz. And I think that's what really gets you frustrated is that, man, if they just take care of the football a little bit, this is probably an easy win for them because they really did handle, again, a Broncos defense that, was really good all year, but late in the year has had its struggles.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just kept hearing, but they didn't punt. Well, yeah, they turned the ball over 5 times.
When you turn it over 5 times, it's going to be hard to punt.
Yeah, you don't have to punt because you're giving the ball away. But I actually just kind of want to move forward from the game because it is sad. It's sad to think of. It's funny if they win that game, they still cover up some of the warts that they have with this roster and the way it's constructed, but they don't. They lose, and Sean McDermott, we learn, gets fired. As he mentioned in his statement, he poured his heart and soul into making this team a Super Bowl team. They didn't get there, but it's been really cool when you have a guy that gets fired and then you see the outpouring of support from his former players on his leadership and the impact that he made in their lives. I think that's the sign of a great head coach.
Yep.
I think it's important for everybody to realize and remember, and Bills fans certainly remember this, the Bills had a 17-year playoff drought before he got there. And then in 9 seasons with the Bills, they go to the playoffs 8 times. He's won 5 consecutive, they won 5 consecutive division titles. Obviously did not win it against the Patriots this year, but he understood the people of Buffalo.
Yep.
He was a high-class, high-character guy. But at first, the expectations were, we got to get this team back to the playoffs. And then over the course of his 9-year tenure there, expectations shifted.
Yep.
And he was a lot of that. The expectation now is Super Bowl or it's a letdown. And unfortunately, it felt like the last few years, they were getting further away from that than closer. I don't know if you think that as well, but I just wanted to make sure we took a minute here to recognize how great of a coach Sean McDermott has been. I think, when we saw Harbaugh get fired, you knew he was going to be a coach right away somewhere else. When we saw Stefanski get fired, I think we saw the same thing, or we thought the same thing. And now this is going to be the same thing with McDermott. He needs to be a head coach again in this cycle. He's that qualified. He's one of the winningest coaches in the last 9 years. If you're the Raiders or if you're the Cardinals, I think we seriously got to be thinking about Sean McDermott, because what does he do? He's going to reset your culture. He's going to provide stability, and he's going to win a lot of football games with whoever he decides to be the head coach of.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's like, let's not forget, as a Buffalo Bills fan or anybody, that really, whatever your expectations are for the Buffalo Bills and how successful you think they should be, let's not forget who set that standard. And I think that's what you're saying. As Sean McDermott came in, he took over this program. I thought it was cool, Fitz. It's not just even former players of his, to see some of the Bills legends reach out and on social media and everything else and say, hey, man, the first thing this dude did was get us around in a room together and ask us as legends in Buffalo Bills history, like, hey, how do we get back to what Buffalo Bills football should be? How do we create this thing, the culture and everything else, to where you guys have pride in it and we're playing at the level of football we want to? Like, he even brought those guys in and embraced them and made them a part of how this place was going to go forward under his leadership. So when you think of 2 guys between Josh Allen and himself who wear and shoulder most of this, I mean, Josh Allen, obviously not his best playoff game that we've seen him have in over the year stretch here of them trying to get to that Super Bowl, still was unbelievable in moments in this game. Everything didn't work out for him at all times. Sean McDermott, listen, the reality is this guy's been unbelievable in his time as the head coach. Did he get to the big one? Did he win the championship, the trophy? No, but I just think sometimes we lose sight of how freaking hard that is. Like, all the things that have to go right for you getting in that moment to win those games. Like Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, how many times were they in their way? An unbelievable team in NFL history that they had to go through on their side to get to that opportunity. I just think sometimes the timing's not what it's supposed to be. And inevitably you see these coaches who are elite and rare, they go find their opportunity. Think of what Andy Reid was before he became the Chiefs coach. He was honestly a lot of what the Sean McDermott era was, right? Like, think of that. Like Sean McDermott, like how many times they've been in the big moments and just hadn't been able to find it. And Andy Reid was really moved on from Philly because it was like, hey, it just isn't going to work here. I mean, could this be an opportunity where we see Sean McDermott go to something like that? Because he's obviously an amazing head coach. You see the players, their love, their appreciation for who he is and what he meant to them. And then now Buffalo's got the tough task of figuring out who's the guy that's next and who is it that's going to come in and fill that role.
Who is the guy that's next? And just to recap, this year, they knew going into the year, they tried to patch together a wide receiver room, right? I mean, they drafted Keon Coleman and thought his development would be more than it is. Curtis Samuel was signed, Joshua Palmer, Elijah Moore, and it just didn't work out through injuries and other things. And then the big thing, and a lot of Bills fans are questioning Brandon Beane right now, and like, why is Sean gone and why is Brandon still there? And why did Brandon receive a promotion? If you look at what he did this offseason, aside from that receiver room and trying to patch it together and not working out, I think we saw with the draft, like they had to address the defense, right? There were some deficiencies on their defense heading into the season, especially up front. So what do? They re-sign Rousseau to an extension. They bring in Joey Bosa, which just, I don't think that he was the difference maker that they thought he was going to be. Your guy, Mike, how do you say his name? Mike Hoyt, Larry Hoyt and Joby, they brought in, and then just spending their first 5 draft picks on defensive guys. None of that really came to fruition right here. And so it was tough to watch and making all these decisions, and each one for whatever different reason, whether it was sleeping in and not being able to wake up to your alarm or getting injured or just maybe having a bit of a fall off from the year before. Obviously, some guys had some suspensions. All those offseason moves did not really help the Bills this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. I mean, I always, obviously we've had Brandon being on the podcast, great dude. It's just tough for me anytime, especially when guys come in together and kind of have a relationship. Anytime you separate the head coach and the GM, because I just think of those relationships and how important they are, that they're all on the same page. There's very few places in the NFL where you really say, hey, there's this GM who's so dynamic and special that he doesn't even really need, the head coach to be really elite and special with him, and the sense of how a team sustains their success. Very rare. I mean, I look at the Rams, places I've experienced like Les Snead and Sean, and how it's literally every decision feels mutual between the two, and like we ride this thing out together. I think it's a tough dynamic for fans and for everybody when you see all of a sudden there's split responsibility there. So it makes you feel like, especially with where those two guys' backgrounds and everything else, it makes you feel like there's some, tension or a relationship struggle there for there to be a separation really in this way. It feels like they just didn't see eye to eye on the future and maybe the present of like really the talent level of this team and maybe what they want out of this football team and where it should be in this moment. There clearly wasn't an agreement there. And I think that's a lot to do with this, is that it feels like a little bit over the last couple of years, you said this, you kind of hinted at this, like it feels a little stuck. It feels a little like, hey, we're not really seeing a change in this roster and team and the level that we feel like, Sean McDermott raised this standard, but what's the next jump? And obviously, Bill's ownership and Brandon Beane, given that promotion, made the decision that the jump comes from, a new person who's standing in front of the room each and every week and representing that team. Because I think sometimes we get a little lost in that GMs really don't have a lot of like personal presence in the locker room, in the meetings, any of that. Like player, you wouldn't say that that's somebody you ever hear from. That's somebody that's kind of in a leadership front office position. But that head coach is the person standing in front of the guys every week. He's the guy giving them their inspiration, their marching orders, the direction of where this franchise is going, the identity of who we're going to be. And obviously Buffalo Bills leadership in the front office decided that they want that to be a different person.
Yeah. And look, Brandon Beane can evaluate talent. You look to the 2022 draft class, missed on Kyer Elam, right? But they got James Cook in the second round. They got Terrell Bernard in the third round. They got Khalil Shakir in the fifth round. They got Christian Benford in the sixth round. So, like, there is a history there of being able to hit on some of these guys. And what the Bills have done a great job of is they see some of these guys as pillars of their team. So they've rewarded their own. They've kept some of these good players around. And I think that's what's made them so good the last few years, is the culture that's been established. It's a tight team. They love playing with each other. They love playing for each other. And that's why when you see Josh Allen take the podium and he's upset as he is, that's when you see even our guy, Deion Dawkins, in the locker room hearing about how Josh feels like he let the team down and how emotional he gets. This is still the ultimate team sport, and they have a great locker room. They love each other. They play very well together, and so that part has been great. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, and I think the biggest thing the McDermott decision was just because expectations have shifted, and the Super Bowl hasn't happened, and so they just felt like you said, being stuck in the mud, they need to go somewhere else. Super Bowl 60 deserves a sportsbook built for the moment, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, puts you right in the center of the biggest game of the year.
And when anything can happen during the Super Bowl, DraftKings has your back with an early exit.
If a player goes down in the first half, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting.
New to DraftKings? New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
And I'm going to pick the same guy for my first two locks because I think we're not going to give this guy enough credit going into the game. Jarrett Stidham will be more on passing yards, and Jarrett Stidham will be more on touchdowns.
Ooh, I love this. Fitz, I'm going to go more as well, but I think you know where my heart is this weekend. I'm going to go Matthew Stafford, more on touchdowns passing, and I'm going to go Kyren Williams, more on touchdowns rushing, baby.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DKWAVE. That's DKWAVE. That's code DKWAVE to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org.
On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. So where do they go, right? And I don't know. My take on this whole thing is they need a veteran coach that's going to preach accountability. And somebody who's going to be very demanding of Josh. And I think I made the point during the Jacksonville playoff game that Josh, his play and everything he did pre-snap was as good as it had been all year. And I just feel like in general, overall this year, if I'm looking at something where I say, gosh, maybe Josh took a step back this year, it was the consistency of that pre-snap command and wizardry. And that's something that has to be demanded out of him every day. So I think the hard part for me is, what is everybody doing now? They're going young. They want the next big, offensive play caller. Sean McVay at this point, I was going to say 2.0, but at this point it's like, 14.0, trying to figure out who the next young Sean McVay is going to be. The problem is, and why I think they need a veteran coach, somebody with a little bit more of an iron fist, is if you bring in a young, cool, hip head coach, he's going to be buddies with Josh. He's going to suck up to Josh. He's going to go golfing with Josh. It's not what he needs. It's not what's best for his career. What's best for his career is he has somebody that comes in and pushes him every single day, because there is another level that Josh can get to, especially mentally, but he has to be coached hard. And if you bring in a young guy, I just don't see it happening. I see him wanting to be his friend more than his coach. And so we'll see what happens. There aren't a lot of names out there. I don't know where they go, Whit, but that's what I would want to see, is a veteran coach that's going to have accountability, and he's going to be a tough coach on these players.
Yeah, because to your point, a young coach coming in, you got an MVP stud quarterback, and you got a first-round pick who can't wake up when his alarm goes off and show up to meetings on time. That's a tough. People think that's easy to deal with. Those locker room dynamics like that are difficult for a young coach, because you're learning on the fly. I mean, you brought up Sean McVay, but the reality is, even Sean would tell you, when you're 30 years old or you're 33 years old, whatever it may be, and you're trying to do this job, you don't know what you don't know. And so you're learning on the fly things of how I would have handled that differently. What leadership looks like in these situations. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just guessing at the answer, and then I got to do a rehash of how maybe I could have handled that better and differently. You haven't been through those moments, so you have no idea what to do. You're just going to lean on as many people as you can to help you with those answers. And so if you do go young, I think you have to have, what we've seen work, a very veteran defensive coordinator come in that you could lean on, that's been a head coach maybe or has experience in those roles. But here's the problem, Fitz. There's so many damn openings. I don't know who anybody's saying their coordinator is going to be that's going to become a head coach, because every single good coordinator that's out there is in play for a head coach position at this point. So I think that's going to be part of the challenge too. And you're a little late if you're Buffalo. I don't think there's a rush, but you're a little late. There's some teams already grabbing people, as we've seen with the Titans grabbing Robert Saleh today. I mean, I think that it's one of those things that you're a little behind and you're playing catch up a little bit, because there's going to be a lot of guys that have already been hired in this cycle.
Yeah. And I didn't mind what Rex Ryan said which I know is crazy, but Belichick with Dable as the OC.
Wouldn't that be the place Bill would love to come back to, though, just to go stick it to the Patriots?
Oh, he would love it. Playing against Vrabes twice a year. Dable's an interesting name to keep an eye on. They had Josh and Dave's had a great relationship, but Dable is that kind of coach that is going to be demanding. Yeah. He's going to try to get the best out of you, and he's not afraid to tell you when you're not playing up to standard. I don't know after what happened in New York that they would be willing to give him the head job, but OC potentially. I don't mind that one.
Going back to the actual game of it, Fitz. There was a couple things. I'll touch on this game, and later I'll say another one. But there's a couple things this weekend. Like, there's very few moments now in our moments of being done where I'm like, damn, I miss being a damn player. And some of those moments that hit you, and you're like, wow, special. I don't know if you saw this after the game. I think it was Bo Nix's mom, maybe, that shared a photo of going back to that Broncos-Bills game that Bo gets hurt. Obviously, Sean Payton kind of shares in the press conference what goes down, but back behind the scenes in the locker room, Bo's kind of in a corner of the locker room. He's sitting on the ground, and some of the other QBs and those guys are in there kind of sitting around with him. And it made me have one of those moments, man. You miss some of those special bond moments where, man, it sucks. And this is devastating news, but at the same time, there's such an appreciation for the ride and what we've been through and been able to do together. You could just see them kind of in this circle having this moment of I don't know, just those bonding moments. You can think back. I'm sure obviously we have Kush on this week. You can think of those moments you had in the locker room where it's maybe not the best of time as far as the news and the information that's going on with your body or anything else. But man, the appreciation you have just as a teammate for walking the life you walk together, man, that was one of those moments where I was like, damn, I kind of miss some of those because it's bittersweet, but it's also really special and you'll never forget it.
Yeah, for sure. And that makes me think of the picture, I think it was Claire Kittle that shared of George, after he tears his Achilles. Same thing, right? Where your heart just pours out for him, but you do think about being part of a team and being in those locker rooms and the love that he's going to receive and everything that he's poured into that franchise. Now
that you're working out, are you a little pissed that you didn't get the call? You're not out there this week? What's going on?
Nope, not at all.
No? Okay. You don't think Rucking's going to get it done?
I don't. I don't think I'm ready, but I'm actually not too worried about Stidham. I think he's going to do just fine, even though it's a huge moment with Sean Payton, but we'll get into that tomorrow a little bit. But I do the 49ers in general, now that, we're bringing up them and that thought. I mean, first of all, that was an ass whooping, and the Seattle Seahawks are scary, but everybody talks about their window closing, but it's let's look at their team for a second and their roster, right? Trent Williams, so he's going to be 38 years old at the start of next season. Kittle's coming off the Achilles tear we just talked about, and he's going to turn 33 next season. Fred Warner's going to be 30 years old next season, coming off a big surgery. Christian McCaffrey, who's talked about this being one of the most demanding years of his career, he's going to be 30 years old before the start of the season. Salah is now going to the Titans. They'll be done with the Ayuk situation and get him out of there. Juwan Jennings is a free agent. What the hell is the 49ers team going to look like next year? I think they got more questions than answers right now.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the challenge. You remember, Shanahan had talked a little bit about, I look at when they lost Salah and DeMeco Ryans, they had that flux on defense that one year where it just wasn't the answer, what they went with. It'll be really interesting to see what Shanahan does as far as where they go for the next coordinator, because, I thought that there was, a little bit of a struggle there when they were not in the DeMeco and Salah family, which are truly two defenses where, honestly, the style of how they play is exactly similar under those two guys. But are they built for that? Can they find another coordinator who that's his style that they feel like they're confident in? I think that's a big piece of this, because when San Francisco has had DeMeco and they've had Salah, you've seen how special they can really be and how rare they are, because offensively, I think you're going to see a little bit of a dip, even though I think Shanahan's one of the best, just because what does Trent do? If he plays another year, would I say he's still rare? Yes. Was he as good as and dominant as he's been in years past? No, there's a little bit of a fall off there. at 38, 39, it's going to start to become more of one. It has to. That's just life. That is what it is. But then the other part of it too is just a little bit of like, what are you doing in the receiver room? Who's going to be that guy for them? And then Fitz, here's the tough one. McCaffrey again, like the usage. You look at his history. When he's been used like this, the next year he's not made it through the season. The next year he's struggled with injuries. He's had a tough time being on the field a lot when they've had to do this, when he's been up there in his top carries, top touches, like they did this year where they leaned on him so much. It's kind of shown in every little trend. The next season, he really struggles to be on the football field. And just think of how much of this team he was this year. If he's not on the football field, this offense is totally different. So I just think it's interesting, because a lot of it's like, what happens? But I think some of it is, man, you look how good Seattle is. You look if Stafford continues to play, how loaded the Rams are. Like, it's not like the Niners are in this situation where their division might fall off a little. Their division's only going to be more of a challenge, and they've got some real questions. Yeah,
but I also refuse to believe that if you have the head coach / play caller and you have the quarterback right, that your window is closing.
Hey, listen, they've won a lot of games either way.
They've won a lot of games. With Kyle Shanahan and with Brock Purdy, I still think they're going to be just fine. It's just that, John Lynch has his work cut out for him this offseason. They got to figure out a lot of stuff. And it just, you hate to see it, and it's probably all dumb luck, but the injuries, it just seems wild. Like every year that's kind of what happens to the Niners. But this team over the last 5 years, 6 years has been very successful. They just haven't been able to win it all. But it's been great to watch. So you just hope that success continues with Shanahan and Purdy at the helm. What about a little Big Whit energy this week? We're narrowing down these teams now, so we're narrowing down the focus. Do you have somebody that's going to win Big Whit energy of the week?
Fitz, we have the best version of Big Whit Energy right here. We almost gave this guy Big Whit Energy. I think we kind of gave him a little shout out about blocking a field goal earlier this season. Frank Crum, he's got to get it. I know it hurts your feelings. It was against the Bills in the playoffs. But if you score a touchdown in a playoff game, you're getting Big Whit Energy, baby. Big Whit Energy goes to Frank Crum. Touchdown, Broncos for the big fella. Gotta love it, baby.
I don't agree. Crum, you broke my heart. Bills Mafia. Oh, it hurt. But it was cool seeing Crum getting in the end zone. Good work. That's it for us. But we'll see you tomorrow when Brian Cushing joins the show. And, of course, we'll be back next week with all the biggest news from the championship round. Fitz and Whit is a Wave original. Thanks to our production crew. And thanks again to all you beardos for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Vamos, Rams!
Peace.